screen.
Yep, I'll go ahead and share it. Hi everyone, Gabriel Mongefranco from the Eisenberg Family Operations Center. And I wanted to share today this tool for documenting databases and schemas. What is this? All right, so I've used this tool in the past. It's called SchemaSpy, and it's basically just a really tiny Java jar file that you run from the command line. And what it does is it connects to a database, and it documents all the different tables and columns. And if there are comments telling you what the columns do, it will also show you the comments. So I ran the tool against the IHS database and the PROM database, just to show you kind of what you can do in this. So it will, after you run it, it will generate a whole bunch of HTML files. So what I did was I just threw all those files into a web server that ITS provides for free. But you can always just look at it in your own computer. So this will generate like a list of tables, give you like all the different columns, give you relationships between the tables. And it can do that whether the relationships are physical, like if somebody actually defined relationships between the tables, but it can also guess relationships, like based on things like field names. So for example, if two tables have a participant ID, it knows that there is a relationship in there, an implied relationship. So this is helpful to kind of see you how to query the data in a database, but it's also helpful for documenting, especially now with the new NIH requirements for data dictionaries. So what I've been doing with this so far is using it to compare all of the sleep tables between IHS and prompt. So just an example, I'm gonna look here for Fitbit, and I have like sleep log details. And then in the prompt database, I'm gonna look for the same thing. So sleep log details, you can see that they both have a table. The fields are a tiny little bit different. So the data types are different because one is in SQL Server, the other one is in Oracle. But also we can see that in IHS, they add an additional column there with a universal time. The other nice thing about this tool, when you're looking at a table, you can see the relationships for the table. You can see like either the next table or like two tables out. And the other part of behind, if we actually had comments in the database telling you what each column does, it will show up over here on the comments, and that will be enough documentation to provide to NIH. Let me see what other feature. The rest of this is more for database programming, like showing you tables that don't have any relationships, showing you things that could potentially be broken in the database, and any stored procedures. So this tool is free. Like I said, just a little Java class file that you run from the command line. There are tools that are a little bit more advanced. They call it data dictionary or data governance tools. And ITS is currently working on one called Data Cookbook. That's weird. Maybe that's in the right address. Anyways, if you have a Google Data Cookbook. So this was more of an enterprise data dictionary. And ITS is working on a one-year pilot, I believe. And eventually they plan to roll that out to mission medicine and to research teams. But it might be at least 5 years out before it goes to research. So in the meantime, if you want an easy way to just document something, SchemaSpy is probably an easy way to go. Right. Any questions?
That's incredible. Could I get a link to the prompt one?
Yeah.
Let
me do this.
Okay.
These are the ones that are documented so far. I'm going to be adding more.
Okay.
And this is just our test web server, so it's not quite production ready yet. I have to do some cleanup.
Okay, and it's still super helpful. Yeah, it just mean the data analyst would be super. This would be super helpful to us.
And
Yeah.
the other helpful thing, I think you can document CSV files. So if you have a
Oh,
bunch
okay.
of flat files for your research, you can also connect to the CSVs and give you the list of columns.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
you
pretty
can
cool.
also, and also if you don't have comments in the database, you can also import a CSV with the column definitions. So they will show up in here.
That is incredible. Thank you. This is super helpful.
Awesome. Anyone else?
So you said it was free.
Mhm.
So did you like are you in is it installed? You're running it locally somewhere or
Yep. So it's a Java class file. If you go to the website, you can see the command that you run.
Mhm.
So technically you're not running the tool, you're running Java. So Java is the executable. You're just passing the name of the class that you download, the SchemaSpy class,
Mhm.
and then the parameters like the username and password for your database.
Okay.
And you need to connect using an account that has schema level access.
Mhm.
Uh, so basically an admin account or a DBO account in SQL Server.
Thanks.
So, Gabrielle, would it make sense for studies that, and I don't even know if from a technology end this is possible, but would it make sense to have like a shared MDEN account where people run this against their mobile data so that they can see the way other people are organizing? Because it doesn't give access to data. It just gives access to the architecture.
Correct.
Would that make sense? Is that possible, or does it
Um,
introduce too much other stuff?
well, since this tool runs in the command line, that would imply having to share a password with a whole bunch of people, and I don't think that's a good security practice.
Okay.
But if folks were able to run this against their own databases, what we could do is compile them all under the same web server. So we could just keep adding onto these where you go onto this homepage over here. So
Okay.
if you guys wanted to run this against a database and and send me like the output, all the HTML files, I could just add them to these. That way, everyone has access to see the database or the structure for the database, I should say. Actually, so this is the output. So it's basically just JavaScript and HTML, and it will have like a HTML page for every table. And then the index page is like the landing page for that particular database. So really just a matter of compiling all these outputs into a single web server. Anyone else?
Well, from anybody else, do you think it would be helpful to have access to the different data, the different architecture and schemas for the mobile study data? I think we could probably do that work if people were willing to share after they ran it against their databases, but is it beneficial to you all?
Maybe.
Or is it more just something that you would use for your own? You wouldn't necessarily use it to create new architecture for mobile data, but you would just use it to manage your databases, your own studies.
I'd imagine most people would prefer to just use it to manage their own. Yeah, I guess people who would maybe use this to compare be trying to set up their own, even though they don't, may have a whole lot of programming experience or database experience. But I I'd imagine most teams would have someone that's their specialization to do that. So this is probably good to just kind of check on their own, see how everything's connected, make sure it's working.
Okay. Any other questions? Or thoughts or tools that you use?
So did you say that the ITS tool that they're looking at right now is called Data Cookbook? Is that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, data cookbook. And they are already running the pilot, but right now they're only running it against ITS databases.
oh, I got it, okay.
So I think by fall, maybe they're going to start running against Michigan medicine databases. But from what they told us, research might be like 5 years down the road, but we're going to try to make the case to, prioritize research databases a little more.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really purchased as a business tool for the university and not as a research tool. But with research getting more data intensive, there's a need for it. All right. Gabrielle, would